Hey everybody, my name's Tim Bogatz. I'm a high school teacher from Omaha, Nebraska, and a writer for the Art of Ed. I'm thrilled to be presenting at the Winter Online Conference 2015, and I'm going to be talking today about printmaking and some of the things you can do with the high school curriculum to push printmaking to the next level. And I'm going to be talking about giant linoleum prints. We're going to be doing acetone transfers, huge monoprints that go directly on the table. And then if you like some of that information, if you think I'm charming or at least informative, we'll actually have a second video also that'll talk a little bit more about silkscreen, printing with stamps, fingerprints, a few other things like that. So you can check that out as well. That being said, we got a lot to get to, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is linoleum printmaking. You may have seen this idea on the AOE website under the high school lesson plans, our panoramic prints. And basically the idea behind this is to take our linoleum printmaking and push it to a little bit higher level. Far too often we take these small prints, something like a 6x9 linoleum block. We print an animal on there, that animal's kind of boring, we add a background, and it still doesn't do much for us. So what I'm trying to do with these prints is challenge my students to not only take a little bit more time, but create something that has a little more visual interest. So what we do is, instead of that 6x9 block, we have the entire roll of linoleum. We'll do it either 6 or 12 inches high and stretch it way out, either 24 or 36 inches long, or anything in between there to create kind of a cool panorama. My students are actually in the middle of this project right now as I'm recording this, so in just a little bit I'm going to have one of my seniors, her name is Nicole, come in and show you her work in progress. We're going to run a test print and just kind of show you the whole process for printing these big prints. Basically what we're looking for is something that creates, like I said, a lot of visual interest and gives people a lot to look at and makes them kind of stop and go, wow, that is a lot of work for a linoleum print. So my kids get a little sick of me pushing them with these things because it is such a time-consuming process, but we can create some really, really nice things. One example I wanted to show you, this was done last year. It's 12 inches tall, it's 3 feet long, really, really nice cityscape with some really cool designs in the background. We simplify a lot of things. If you notice the cars, the buildings down at the bottom, things are a little bit simple there, but with the sky we have a ton of designs. With some of the buildings we create a few more designs, and that's one of the big challenges here, is to fill all those empty spaces with such a big print. But if you can do that, you can create the detail and create kind of a strong image, an interesting image. You can create some really, really nice prints. So I'm going to bring Nicole in and we'll go ahead and show you kind of what we do to create these prints. Alright, so now we're going to show you the printmaking process, and even though it is a panoramic print, it's still the same process as you would do for any block print. We have our brayers, we have our ink, we have our spoons, paper, everything that we need. However, because you are filling so much space here, I like to do it with 2 people, because what we found is if you just have one person trying to ink a 12 by 24 print or a 12 by 36 print even, that ink starts to dry out before you even print. So if you have 2 people to handle the long linoleum block and you have 2 people to handle the paper and ink it, it should go a lot quicker and should run a lot smoother. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Like I said, just the same process as you always have. I'm going to take one side of the print, Nicole will take the other side. Alright, you ready to go?
I think so.
Alright. Okay, so we'll just go ahead, register, flip, and press that down exactly where we need. Okay, this is another spot where 2 people come in handy. We're going to flip the paper back over. Okay. Take our spoons, transfer the ink, and we should be good to go. Alright, now after we have all the ink transferred, again, this is the other spot where 2 people really come in handy. We'll go ahead and start to peel, and then Nicole can catch that side as we go up from there, and we'll take a look at this, see what else we need to do. So let's talk acetone transfers. A few things that you're going to need. Your photocopy of your image that's going to be transferred, the paper that it's going to be transferred onto. You're going to need your acetone, obviously. You don't necessarily need to start with a bucket as big as your head, but it's what we've got around here, so that's what I'll be going with. And then some paper towels that you can transfer the acetone onto the image with. You're also going to need your mask. Okay? These always work really well, especially if you're breathing in those vapors. Okay? And then my kids and I generally like to have a little bit of fun with ours, so we usually paint them. Okay? And so when you put those on and you're doing plaster, you're doing transfers, anything like that, makes things a little more enjoyable, freaks out the intro kids a little bit. Okay? Good look, just like that. Now, I'm going to be taking mine off because it mutes my voice a little bit too much, so I'm kind of a bad example, but you'll get the idea of what we're trying to go for here. It's a really simple process. Okay, take your paper towels, put a little acetone on there. Don't need a whole lot, just enough to get the paper towel a little bit wet. Okay, and then you can just begin to transfer. And then what you'll do is just kind of rub the acetone onto your image, and you'll be able to see what's transferring and what's not. You can see that dark part is obviously the part that has been transferred so far, and the white part is what needs to still be transferred. And so all you need to do is just go over there a few more times, make sure that everything is visible, because once it's visible, then you know it is transferred onto your second piece of paper. So as I mentioned, the acetone transfers work on all different types of surfaces. They work great for mixed media pieces because they show up so well on so many different things. There are a few that I would recommend you stay away from, so what I want to do is just give you a quick visual run through of how the acetone transfers look on top of different materials. So we're going to take this image again, and I just want to show you how it looks on a few different surfaces. So first one is going to be this colored pencil. Not a big fan of this because there's just too much wax there and it resists the acetone. Even if you're using Prismacolors or other high quality colored pencils, it doesn't transfer well because of that wax resist that's there. So colored pencils, probably out. For acrylic, it works pretty decently. Obviously we could create a little more contrast with this one, but there are certain spots where it looks a little bit patchy, and if you put too much acetone, it can actually eat through the acrylic and create sort of a white surface there where the paper underneath the acrylic will show through. So just something to be careful of there. Sometimes it'll work with acrylic, sometimes I'm not a big fan. Now with pastels, you can generally get some decent stuff. Oil pastels, obviously not, but chalk pastels, it can create a pretty good surface. There's a little bit of a resist there. We could have a little more contrast. It's not as dark as we'd like, but it works out all right. So I'm not too troubled by the problems with this, and I would definitely recommend it with the oil pastels. With watercolor, this is a really, really dark watercolor, but it shows up really well. Obviously there's nothing there to resist. You can just go straight on top of the watercolor, but it works pretty nicely. So if you're going to do transferring on any kind of painting, acrylic or watercolor, it should show up pretty well, but even better on watercolor than it does on acrylic. Now, we've also tried it with a few different sort of out of the ordinary medium, so I want to show you a couple there. This one, simple crime novel. I think it was called O is for Outlaw or something super dramatic like that. But if you can just transfer on there with the written word underneath there, it creates a little bit more visual interest. You can get some kind of cool things going on with both the background and the image there. It's a little more layered, looks a little bit nicer, so I'm a big fan of that one. I also like going on top of maps. So if you can get an old atlas, I go to AAA or like your state office building, they always have maps around that they're happy to give away. They're great for drawing, they're great for printing, they're great for acetone transfers. Again, just that extra visual interest in the background can create kind of a cool thing. And then my absolute favorite to transfer on are markers. So if you get some high quality markers, I'll show this a little bit closer. The purple in there sort of fades away when that acetone reacts with it, so it creates this sort of textured, fun surface. So not only do you get the transfer that you need, but it also changes the original marker surface to create kind of a cool thing there. The effect is pretty nice and creates a really, really cool surface with both the marker and the acetone transfer on there. Then the last thing I want to talk to you about is monoprinting. What we like to do in my room is go huge directly on the table. We place ink down, draw on it, create our image, and then print directly from the table. Sometimes it goes really well, sometimes we fail miserably, but either way, my kids love doing it. So I'm going to show you just a few pictures, talk you through the process, which is very simple, and it should be something that you can take really easily into your classroom. So let's see what we got. So we begin by putting ink all over the table. You can do whatever size you want. Generally, we start by taping off the square so we have a clean edge, then drawing with marker before we add our ink. Then once the ink is added directly onto the table, we use brushes, clay tools, pencils, whatever to add what we need for the detail in the print. Then once all the ink is there, we tear up the tape for a clean edge, print, and you should be able to get some pretty good results. Even big ones like a 16 by 20 print, which generally looks pretty nice as a monoprint. I think that's it for me, so thank you. I appreciate AOE giving me the opportunity to present. I hope you found some things that you can use in your classroom. Like I said, there's a second video at the AfterPass, and we should have a ton of lesson plans for you that you can take back and hopefully use. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.